Hi guys, welcome back to another video. As you can tell, I'm in a different background today. I'm in Lucy Lou's bedroom, and yes, today's video is something slightly different. Today I'm just going to recap Lucy Lou's birth. So this is my birth story for Lucy. If you are new to my channel, this is a little late. Lucy's almost 2, but I thought it'd be nice to have as a keepsake and just let you guys know a little bit about us and a little bit more about how Lucy Lou came into the world. So I thought I would share my birth story with you. So if that is something you're interested in hearing, make sure you stay tuned. Okay, so basically let's get down to business. Lucy was born on the 8th of February 2015. We're almost into 2017 now. Actually, by the time this video goes up, it will be 2017. So she's almost 2 years old, and she is my second baby. I have a 7-year-old son, and if you're interested in hearing about his birth story, it is very different to Lucy. So if that's something that you would like me to share as well, make sure you let me know in the comments and like this video, and I can do that one for you as well. But today's is just particularly about Lucy Lou entering the world. So a little background on my pregnancy. It was pretty straightforward. I did get quite a lot of morning sickness in the first couple of months, which was quite bad. Very different to Jackson's as well, as I didn't get any morning sickness with his that pregnancy, that makes more sense. So yes, I was quite sick, and throughout the pregnancy we also didn't know what we were having. So I didn't know Lucy was a girl. I actually throughout the whole pregnancy thought she was going to be a boy. I just envisioned myself that I was just going to be surrounded by males. I didn't even actually cross my mind that we were gonna have a girl. I don't know, mother's intuition obviously didn't work for me because I was pretty certain she was a boy. So the pregnancy itself was pretty straightforward. Besides morning sickness and carpal tunnel, I got really bad carpal tunnel, which was terribly annoying, and fluid retention, which kind of goes hand in hand with carpal tunnel. So got that towards the end of the pregnancy. I was feeling pretty lousy the couple of weeks leading up to Lucy's arrival. I went and saw my doctor on the Thursday, and I was due to finish work the following Friday. When I saw her, I was feeling quite a lot of pressure down below in my pelvic region, and was just feeling really lousy, but I just kind of put that down. You know, it's pregnancy. I'm almost 38 weeks. I think it was about 37 and a half, just past 37 weeks when I went and saw her on the Thursday. And yeah, I was just feeling pretty lousy, but she did an examination. She said, you know, the head was down and engaged, but I certainly was not dilated or effaced or anything like that. She didn't think anything was going to happen anytime soon. You know, she was engaged, but that was about it. So I saw her on the Thursday. Went to work all the following week. Felt really lousy at work, just felt heaps and heaps of pressure, just the pressure pain, and not so much pain, just uncomfortable, just so uncomfortable. Following Thursday I finished work at 1 o'clock I think, and after work I literally just came home and collapsed in a heap and fell asleep and slept for like 7 hours straight. I was ridiculously exhausted. I also had some diarrhea, which is apparently quite common. Like before you go into labor, your body starts kind of just getting rid of everything. Although that didn't really cross my mind. You know, I just turned 38 weeks at this point, just before I hit 38 weeks. So in my head, I still had quite a few weeks to go. I was 10 days late with Jackson, so I thought I at least had 2 to 3 weeks to go. I was super exhausted though, so tired. The following day I was supposed to go to work for another half day, but I just couldn't. I rang my boss and I'm like, look, I'm just so tired. I was just physically and mentally exhausted. I had heaps of pressure, and she was like, look, don't worry about it, we'll just call yesterday as your last day. Friday was supposed to be my last day of work. I was supposed to finish about a week and a half prior to my due date, just so I had some time to prep, and I hadn't washed anything, I hadn't gotten stuff organized. That was kind of my time to nest and get things prepped. So she was like, look, just take yesterday as your last day, like feel better, get some rest, you know, enjoy your time off prior to the bub coming. So that's what I wanted to do. Had an early night that night and woke up Saturday morning, and I got up and I opened the dishwasher and I felt this gush of water. Not a hell of a lot, not like Niagara Falls like gush of water, just a little bit of water. And I kind of thought to myself, like, did I just pee myself? Like, with Jackson, my waters didn't break until I was actually in labor at the hospital, and I was in a bath, so I didn't have that feeling. I didn't know what it was like for your waters to break. So I was like, did I just pee myself? So went to the bathroom and my underwear was quite wet and there was no bloody show or anything like that, and I was like, pretty sure I just peed myself, like maybe because I just bent down and got up and I don't know. So I changed my underwear and went back out. Mind you, Jackson's still asleep, Luke's still asleep, packing her, and then like my underwear was wet again, and I'm like, what is going on? So I went to the bathroom and changed my underwear again and put a pad on, and I'm like, this is a bit weird. And then, you know, TMI alert coming up, like, well, actually this whole video is TMI, so just sorry, just if you don't want to listen to this kind of gross stuff, just exit the room now. So yeah, I put a pad on, continued putting away the dishes, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'll go to the bathroom, like I'll try and pee, like if I'm wetting myself or I'm losing control of my bladder, I'll try and go to the toilet and try and empty it out, like, you know, so it stops leaking. I couldn't pee, but I could hear drops in the toilet, and I'm like, well, I'm not peeing, but drops are coming out of the other part of my vagina. So I was like, okay. And then I kind of like smelt the water. I know, totally gross, but someone told me that like your water's breaking kind of smells a bit sweet, and it obviously doesn't smell like urine because it's not urine. So I kind of like smelt it and I'm like, that's definitely not urine. Like, I know what urine smells like. Like I have a boy, I have a, at that time, 5-year-old boy that pees everywhere on the floor. So I was like, I know what urine smells like, that's not urine. So went into the, but I didn't feel anything. If anything, I felt really good. I had no pain, no discomfort. I'm like, this is really weird. So I woke Luke up. I'm like, hey, I don't want to freak you out, pretty sure my waters broke. And he was like, what? So he quickly, like, kind of panic mode. He obviously hasn't been with someone being in labor. So we packed up Jackson, sent him off to his dad's house. He came home and he's like, you know, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't feel anything. So I rang the hospital and like, look, you know, I'm pretty sure my waters just broke, but I'm not entirely sure because it just didn't gush out. It seems to just be leaking. Told her all the symptoms. She's like, look, you know, just come into the hospital, we'll check you out. So we went up to the hospital and we got hooked up on the machines, and she was monitoring, and I was getting like mini contractions like Braxton Hicks, but it just felt like little bits of tightening of my stomach, definitely not like contractions. And she's like, you know, you're obviously, you know, you're not in labor, you're only like a centimeter dilated or something, you're not having contractions, but yes, your waters have broken. You have two options. You can either stay in hospital now and we can what is the word, we can induce you using, you know, artificial chemicals to bring on labor and induce you, or you can go home and wait it out and see if you naturally go into labor. And if you haven't gone into labor within 48 hours, then you have to come back to the hospital and we have to induce you, because it's obviously not good for your waters to break and then you not go into labor for that period of time. So she gave me a thermometer and she just said you need to check your temperature every hour or so and make sure you're not running any fevers and that there's no risk of infection. If you do run a fever, then you need to come straight in. We have to like induce you straight away. Otherwise, and I was like, look, I definitely don't want to be induced. I've heard horror stories of being induced and that's just not what I wanted. I wanted to naturally go into labor if I could. So I took the thermometer and we trotted off home, and we got hungry jacks on the way home. I know. And got home and it was so hard just sitting there over analyzing every tiny little pain and anything that was happening in my body. I was like, is this it? Is this it? Is this gonna happen? Oh my god, like, is it happening yet? So I went home and did that pretty much all afternoon. I vacuumed the floors, did a few things. I was like, okay, like, come on, tried to get things moving. So my waters had broken 7:30, 8 a.m. that morning. Coming on about 8 o'clock at night, I started to feel, you know, twinges coming on, Braxton Hicks getting worse, and I was like to Luke, like, oh look, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, I think things are happening, but I don't know. I'm just gonna go put the aircon on, because mind you, we're in the middle of like summer where we live, and it was like 40 degrees. So I'm like, I'm gonna go in the bedroom, I'm gonna put the aircon on, I'm gonna dim the lights and just lay in bed and, you know, kind of time things. So this is about 8:30. Toddler went and started timing the contractions, and the contractions were like quite, you know, long apart. They were like 6-7 minutes. So I was in there for about an hour, and then all of a sudden it was just like bam, they went from like 7 minutes apart to like 2 minutes apart. And I think Luke heard me like groan in pain, and he kind of came in, he's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, they're just getting like really intense. And so he was holding my hand, and he was like, are you timing them? And I was like, yeah, on my phone I had like one of those apps that time your contractions. It's like, how are they coming? I'm like 2 to 3 minutes. And he's just like, that's pretty sudden. Like last time I came in here, they were only happening every now and again. I'm like, I know. And in that I was contracting and they were painful. I was like, okay. And he's like, no, maybe we should go to the hospital now. And I'm like, no, I went so early with Jackson, I don't want to be at the hospital for ages. Like labor takes ages, I'm gonna try and wait it out as much as I can at home. And he's like, no, like we should probably go to the hospital. I'm like, no, like let me just stay at home as long as possible. So I'm contracting, and it was really painful. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I think I'm gonna spew. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna vomit. So he like quickly runs into the kitchen and grabs one of my nice bowls, mind you, salad bowls, runs in and puts in it, and I vomited like 3 times, like massive spews of my whole Hungry Jack's meal. Great choice, Cara. Spewed that all up, and I was just like, and I think it was because the pain just suddenly got so much worse, and my body just like went crazy. It was just expelling everything. And Luke's like, nah, that's it, we're getting in the car, we're going to the hospital. I'm like, okay. And it took me 20 minutes to walk from my bedroom door to our car. I was contracting like that many times, and he's like, this has happened like so quickly, like you literally only started having like little contractions like 2 hours ago. This was at 10 p.m. By the time we got in the car. It's also summer and torrential rain where we live, so besides it being 40-degree heat, it was torrential rain. We had one of the biggest storms that night in terms of rain, and Luke was trying to drive so fast to the hospital without having an accident and not being able to see where he was going because it was raining so hard. We got there, couldn't find a park, finally found a car park. For the time for me to get from the car park into emergency, because this was a Saturday night, and you couldn't just go up to the ward at this time of night, you had to access it through the emergency department. And you can just imagine the emergency department on a Saturday night. It was full of drunks and dickheads and people who've gotten into fights, and yeah, it was awesome. So went into there, finally made it in, contracting the whole way. We got up to the counter, and I know we should have done this, we should have like rang the hospital and said we were coming in, but we'd already seen them earlier that day, so I don't know, we should have done that. But everything happened so quickly, we were just like, we just ran in. We got to the counter and we're like, look, you know, Luke was like, my partner's in labor, like we've been here this morning, can you let us in? And she was like, oh, did you ring ahead? And Luke's like, no, but we saw them this morning. Well, you should have rang ahead. We don't have any of the paperwork, we don't know anything about it. And Luke's like, it's quite obvious she's in labor, like can we just go through? And she was such a pain in the ass until I turned around, and Mick's having contractions in the middle of the emergency department. I was like, hey, I'm gonna spew. And she was like, oh, what? And I'm like, yep, I'm gonna spew like right now. And she was like, oh, and gave me a freaking, like, what do you call, a stationary tray that you put your pens in. She gave me that to spew in, and I was like, but it was something. So I threw up in the stationary tray, and then she kind of took notice and went, oh hey, actually she is in labor, shit, I better let you through. So she let us through and got me a wheelchair and put me in. And on the way to the labor ward, I threw up a couple more times in my stationary tray, winning. Got up there, and because we didn't ring ahead, they kind of put us in a really nice birthing suite, which was brand new, and it was massive and gorgeous. And kind of sat in there, and she's like, look, you know, just wait in here, I need to go like grab your chart and do all the paperwork and stuff. I'm like, cool. mind you, I'm sitting on the couch, contracting. I was like squeezing Luke's hand, killing him, going, this is getting really bad, this is getting really bad, like, oh my god. At that point, I'm just like, give me the drugs, I need drugs, I can't handle this. Like, I was so much pain, and it was just happening like one after the other. Like, and I was like, Luke, like, where? It felt like eternity that the nurse had left. In reality, it was probably like 10 minutes. It's probably about 11 o'clock now, 11:30, 12, like around there. And it felt like eternity that she was gone. But I think she was only gone half an hour. It felt like 5 hours. And I was like, where's the freaking nurse? Like, this is, I need something. So Luke goes and calls the nurse in and goes like, hey, like, you haven't even examined her, like, we've been sitting here for a little while. And she's like, yeah, I put the paperwork. And I think she just saw me and knew how, like, I don't know if it was just like a nurse thing. She saw how much pain I was in and how quickly the contractions going. She knew that it was going to happen pretty quick. So I think she was stalling around me trying to get pain relief, because there was literally no point. They didn't even examine me to see how many centimeters dilated I was. I think they knew it was happening really quickly, and it was really weird. It was nothing like Jackson. So I got no examination. She was like, look, you know, you're in pain, why don't you take off your clothes and sit on the birthing ball under the water, and that'll you know, help you out with the pain, and let's do that and try and do that, kind of steering me away from me going, I need drugs. So I'm like, okay. So I took off all my clothes. I think I had like a crop top on. I sat on the birthing ball while Luke had the hot water on my back, and then she's like, look, I'm just gonna go out for a minute, I'll be back. I think she went out to the nurses to like, let's get shit together, because I think it's gonna happen quick, but without telling me. I think she didn't want me, I don't know, didn't want to like freak me out, because I'd literally only been at the hospital for like 45 minutes. So she then came back in. No, she didn't come back in. So she was out there doing that, and then I all of a sudden had this urge to like push, but I wasn't ready. Like, I'd literally only gone into labor like 3.5 hours ago, and I'd only been at the hospital, and I thought I had a lifetime to labor in. And I'm like, look, I think I'm pushing. It's like, what do you mean you think you're pushing? Like, we've been here like an hour. What do you mean you think you're pushing? And he said he saw my stomach like clench and like push. It was crazy. And he's like, holy shit, I think you're pushing. So I slid off the birthing ball onto the floor of the bathroom. He ran out and said, hey nurse, like, you need to get back in here. She ran in with towels, and she just had enough time to like pop them under my butt. Luke was jammed in like underneath the sink, like holding my hand. I'm like leaning back underneath the sink between the toilet on the bathroom floor, and I literally pushed once and Lucy was out, like out. And I was just like, holy shit, like holy, it pushed like once, and I've barely been in labor, and I'm on the bathroom floor, and the nurse just had enough time to like catch her and put her on my chest. And then another nurse came in and quickly jabbed my leg with that injection to make your afterbirth birth out, and that was it. And I just remember going, Luke, what is it? He's like, what do you mean, what is it? It's a baby. I'm like, what sex is it? And it was a baby girl, and she weighed so little. She was so tiny. She was like under 6 pounds, but she was the most beautifulest thing I had ever seen, and it was just amazing. I had a complete natural birth. I had no tears, no stitches, no problems. And it happened like a blink of an eye. I went into labor, like mild contractions at probably 8-9 o'clock at night, and she was born at 1:27 in the morning. So, I mean, it kind of seemed long, but I literally was only having heavy contractions towards a couple of hours at the end that were really painful. And it was legitimately the most amazing experience. It was very personal, very not intervening by the hospital at all. They just let us do it on our own pretty much, and just came in there in the last second. And I remember she then laid me on the bed, and I had an hour just Lucy on my chest before they did anything. They didn't wipe her clean, they didn't weigh her, measure her. I just had this alone time with her and Luke in the quietness of the room for ages until they came in and did all that stuff. It was just an amazing experience, and completely different to Jackson's, and I'm so grateful and so lucky. And yeah, so that is the story of how my little bubba girl made it into the world, and she was absolutely perfect. And we were out of the hospital a day and a half later, back at home, and we were doing great, and I couldn't have asked for a better birth. Like, I really couldn't. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this little story, and of course, if you want to see more of these type of videos, make sure you like, and if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button.